Alrighty. Welcome, everybody, to the House of Holocrons podcast. Full screen. That looks a little bit better. Of course, this week we have some of the most amazing stuff to talk about ever. First off, let me just start with an apology for being a little bit late. As I am an HVAC technician and maintenance guy, sometimes sadly duty calls, and I was elbow deep in some poor woman's heater. So sadly, I was not able to leave work in time because you can't really leave that just half done. But we're here, and like the honorable HVAC people, sometimes there are honorable Mandalorians in this world, and there are honorable Imperials. Not very many. And I don't know if I want to count Crosshair as honorable yet, but I will definitely say that this episode of Bad Batch was needed for some Crosshair, like, movement. It was nice to finally see Crosshair again.
Yeah, we finally get him back in an episode. I think we haven't really seen him since like episode 2.
Right, yeah, that's it. Episode 2 with Cody.
With this one's called Outpost, and I haven't seen Crosshair. We barely got to see him in the first season either. He was kind of an antagonist, and that was basically all we saw him. But we see his return.
And a really awesome I like Mayday. He pretty much gets sent on a new mission with a real dickhead, Lieutenant Nolan. Was that a thing? Nolan?
Yeah, so we get to see, again, the difference between, and we get to see kind of the impact of how that looks too, of the difference between Jedi officers and Imperial officers.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Lieutenant Nolan, which is the new lieutenant, greets them all rudely and actually refers to them as used equipment. So he doesn't see them as people; he sees them as another tool for part of the Imperial military. Not only a tool, but an outdated tool that he's happy to get rid of.
Yeah, a lot of these Imperial higher-ups literally think of these poor, human, living, breathing, feeling clones as nothing but a blaster with a very, very intricate trigger.
That's kind of how society's starting to shape that way. The fact that they don't have any representation in the government, they're not seen as normal people. I think I think they're kind of pushed that as an agenda. I think the idea of the clones being a person is probably not common thought now.
And it seems like the constant just rudeness and jabs from Nolan, the lieutenant, eventually is kind of, I feel like Crosshair was like, I'm not doing this again. I already got rid of Rampart. I'm not going through all of this all over again. Because there's so much trauma and amazing things that happen throughout the episode. But we get to this new ice planet where they're literally supposed to apparently just receive cargo. The cargo's been attacked a lot.
Been sitting on this planet for a long time, apparently, since I guess before the Empire was the Empire, or like early Empire, because I guess technically it is
still kind of Republic base.
Yeah. And then we find out that there's Commander Mayday, which you mentioned earlier. He's pretty much got cloth all over, either to help warmth or help to hold his equipment together, which seems both.
Right.
Since they're all falling apart.
And when they get there, there's only 2 guys of the entire squad even left. Apparently, Raiders have been really going after this equipment so heavily that no one sent reinforcements. That's kind of a thing that Mayday and Crosshair talk about when they're kind of bonding.
Yeah, Nolan kind of jabs at him, says, "What do you mean? What have you been doing this whole time?" And he says, "They've been attacking us," and he kind of mocks him for it. And he says, "Well, how many missions have you been on?" And he kind of looks away. So pretty much none. He also corrects him, calling himself Commander, which in the Republic military, or technically in even the Imperial, Commander is higher than Lieutenant. But because he's a clone, he's technically it's a weird.
Yeah,
he should be higher ranked than the Lieutenant, but he's not because he's a clone.
Right, and there's kind of that feeling too of this is exactly what the Empire wanted. They wanted these very shapeable, very egotistical, very prideful people to be their higher ups. All of them are like from Coruscant. They're all from rich families on Coruscant, and they've never seen any battle.
I mean, this is actually another. I mean, with Bad Batch, it's been a very reflection of real world scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
This has actually been something that's happened many times. Many like the German officers, more on akin to some of the other ones, like the Japanese officers would
Mm-hmm.
treat their soldiers less than they're actually less than people. They would use them as fodder.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, a lot of their equipment was set up for suicide attacks.
Yeah.
Um, and then not only just them, but our own military. There's times that's happened, and that's kind of the disconnect when you have officers that are separated through. So, like our officers have to go through college,
Mm-hmm.
and they're kind of at a time when college is seen as an upper class thing.
Right.
It was a term where actually a lot of officers were actually killed by their own soldiers in past wars in Korea and
Vietnam.
so Vietnam and some of the other
Yeah.
other wars where the soldiers would actually kill their own officers, American soldiers, because they were
Right.
treated in such a manner. So this is a recurring thing. On top of that, if they wasn't reflecting them enough, or if they weren't hitting the nail on the head, they literally called Mayday,
Yeah.
which is it's so Mayday is a military term that basically means help, emergency. It actually came from it came about in World War One, essentially because SOS wasn't international friendly, mostly from the French because they couldn't pronounce SOS.
You know.
So they adopted the French phrase "Veni Midi," which kind of got bastardized to Mayday,
Mm.
Midi, Mayday, which in French it means "come help."
Okay.
Um,
Which is sadly the
yeah,
Empire has done none of. They apparently have had no new equipment sent to them, no new armor, no reinforcements. And that's
I
a
mean,
big part of the Empire now is they'll say, we need this. It's extremely important. Why aren't you fighting harder for this equipment? But then we were not going to give you any help.
one thing I thought was interesting too when I was hearing Mayday at first, I thought it was like that's a bad name to have, but it could be cool if you spin it around that he helps people, like he
Mm-hmm.
shows up in emergency. But point out that we've had a similar naming situation earlier with the I think it was Sergeant Wilco.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember his rank, but he was like he was a leader before. And Wilco is another term that means affirmation of following orders. Is like I confirm that I'm going to follow these orders. You see, Roger Wilco is a common older phrase. Um, and the reason why I point that out is because he was killed by Rampart for following orders. He was actually following Rampart's orders. The Rampart killed him off because he was the witness.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing we're gonna get some of these like military names that are like basically you can already tell what's gonna happen to them.
Well, it's like
That,
before I even knew it was a thing, when you go back to Clone Wars, there's Jedi Master gonna die.
yeah.
And the clone commander with him was Keel. So yeah, Dave was really big on like if they're gonna die that episode, he'll kind of let you know.
It is weird that they're using military terms that wouldn't fit in Star Wars, but
Yeah.
yeah. But
Um,
yeah,
it's an amazing planet, and by amazing I mean cold as hell and just barren. With
yeah,
ice vultures, that's the weird one. So I was like, well, it's cold enough to have like no animals, but it's not cold enough
it
for like life.
almost like a kind of a deep meaning with at least like Crosshair. There's like a connection with that in Crosshair because we see it
Mm-hmm.
again when Crosshair has his moment at the end of the episode. But yeah, we get to see they also I wrote down the droids on the station look really similar to the KX police droids, which is like we see that in Andor with the Imperial policing droid.
Yes.
Those droids they had on station look like an earlier model of one,
Yeah.
possibly.
Yeah, the one that was
'Cause
moving that crate.
yeah,
Because they're pretty, yeah, they're detention droids. They're just heavy lifters. They're pretty much just go do it droids. Jess puts in the initial look at the helmets really struck me, showing how many brothers they had lost over time. I look at familial names on Earth terms as a translation we can understand. Yeah, they're going to use a few terms. I mean, it's called a lightsaber, not a glibligger blur.
yeah.
But then also, yes, the first part, the helmets, that's a big thing. And like we even see later on, they're kind of attacked again in the middle of everyone talking. And through that, Crosshair tries to take down one of the raiders. There's of course a crazy snowstorm going on, like always on this planet, and the two others that were with Mayday are lost, killed in action.
Well, it's interesting that the helmets you mentioned. There's a little bit of irony that if you don't know it yet, but if you know what happens at the end, what the helmets are resting because they're kind of like a shrine of the fallen because how he has them set up. But they're sitting. What they're sitting on is kind of ironic because
Yes, they're sitting on the cargo that they are there to actually get from these troopers. That was the whole point, is that Crosshair and these new Imperials, with a few clones, were literally just there to help guard this until the shipment came in, or not shipment, but the ships came in to grab the entire shipment and take it back to the Empire.
But we don't get that. Yeah, we get some completely different in the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they go through. They chase after these because they steal from them again. These uh these
Raiders.
raiders, yeah, and they're actually all wearing like the repurposed clone armor and stuff too.
Which is even worse because then I think Mayday even says something. He's like, getting killed by people in armor they stole off your body. I mean, like, how disrespectful could that be, you know?
But yeah, they go through and Crosshair steps on a mine.
Yes, they find a tunnel. They're going down. That's a fun one because I love how Mayday's even like, I'm not an explosive specialist. So
I do love his reaction for it. He's like, I'm going to try.
But also, I'm going to go around the corner. And you can take
realistic.
Yeah. Very, like, you hear him from around the corner just shouting, slowly remove your foot. He's like, I'm not dying right now. I've made it this far, man. I don't want to die. They do, of course, end up on the other side of the tunnel where they see just right from the tunnel, like not even hiding at all. You can just see lights on the side of the mountain in a cave system. They go up, they find these raiders there who aren't speaking Galactic Basic, so it's obviously some alienoid species.
Get a pretty cool shootout through it.
Yeah. Very tactical too, with the reinforcement placements and like figuring things. It wasn't like the flip mirror shoot everyone in the head. It was much more like an actual firefight.
It was a cool firefight. Most of them had like electric staffs.
Yeah.
And then our Crosshair and Mayday win. And then they find out what's inside of it, and it's brand new equipment for the early stormtroopers. So it's like stormtrooper prototype armor, but it's like brand new,
amazing equipment, like great gear that they could have happily have given to these clones that were just standing there waiting. But no, that's not for dirty clones. That is for stormtroopers. And that's when things really set off. By the time that they're done with the fight, though, there's an avalanche which almost kills both Crosshair and Mayday.
Before the avalanche, we get a really cool phrase that kind of avalanche follows it. We get Mayday kind of repeating what Crosshair said multiple times: "Is good soldiers follow orders," but then he follows it by saying, "And for what?" Because they see like his response to the new equipment and how they're being treated. They're doing everything they're supposed to do, but they just are getting thrown away like garbage.
Right.
But after he says that, that's when the avalanche comes down. They run, and then Mayday sacrifices himself to save Crosshair.
And getting severely injured. Crosshair's, for the first time ever, because he even says earlier, Crosshair's like, "Oh, I'll leave you. I don't pick up dead bodies." And so Mayday's like, "Well, don't let me die on your watch." But of course, Crosshair's... Nope, he doesn't leave him. He rushes over, immediately tries to dig him out, puts his helmet back on him, and throws him over his shoulder and starts carrying him out. An extremely...
loses his helmet in the process. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yes, he doesn't have his helmet at all. I love how unconfident he was.
Buried.
Yeah, no, Crosshair was very unconfident. By the time Mayday had, and when they were both looking at that armor, you can kind of tell Crosshair he's thinking more and acting less. He's sluggish now. Like he's so busy in his own head with what's going on.
It's also interesting, even from the beginning, since he met Mayday, there was always like a sign of respect when he found out he was commander. He already kind of respected him. He listened to them. He paid attention to him. He almost seemed like he kind of did the same thing with we get with Cody.
Yeah.
The same kind of look and reaction every time. I know I could tell by the way his emotions on his face that he would respond, um, more respectfully, like he admires the person.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we see his change because he actually does go back and he drags the body. But yeah, his helmet got buried in the snow, so I guess we're not gonna see that helmet anymore.
Right, and he just gives it up entirely. Doesn't try. He doesn't care. He's just trying to get Mayday to safety. We get, of course, the scene where they drop, pick back up. There's a buzzard literally just circling overhead almost,
Yeah.
and then it goes
Again,
off.
the bird.
Yep, again the bird.
We see it again later too.
Yes, as we get back pretty much to the base,
Where-
right when they're getting there, they see the ships fly overhead. So reinforcements are here. Crosshair's thinking, cool, we can save Mayday, we can get out of here. Everything's gonna be as okay as it can be right now. They go to the landing zone as the stormtroopers are loading up everything, and Lieutenant Nolan just comes out of nowhere and is just like, where's my crates? Like, you failed your mission. What is this? And Crosshair the entire time is literally just pretty much screaming at him, hey man, he's dying. You've got to help him. Can we get some meds, something? And was it Nolan says almost something
he calls him a waste of resources.
Yeah.
He says he did what he was supposed to do, and he's pretty much just a waste of resources. And then
he turns around and tries to walk off.
Crosshair kind of snaps. You see the bird again flying overhead as he looks at it, and then
he checks his pulse. He's dead. Mayday has passed on, no longer around, and that's it. Finally, I think Crosshair's had enough of the Empire.
Yeah, and he shoots and kills the guy.
He shoots and kills right there.
What everybody was wanting him to do. So.
Yep. Every time that guy opened his mouth, I could just tell most of the internet or most of just the Star Wars fandom was like, please shoot him.
One thing that's interesting in the background that really is a spit on their faces of what's been going on. Not only are these stormtroopers storming out of the thing in mass numbers, but they're also bringing more and more of these crates, what they were defending.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if you notice, they were like inventorying all these crates. They're pulling out all this stuff. So they had tons of it, and they had plenty of it. And it's like a spit in the face, like a couple crates missing. And
yeah, there's hundreds of crates, but you're mad because we lost 2. But yeah, Lieutenant Nolan's down, and then the stormtroopers rush.
Interesting ending to that episode as well.
Yes,
as they knock him out, and they. Well, I think they knock him out, right?
I think they rush up on him, and then he just passes out from exhaustion.
Oh yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah, he just kind of like falls over and just passes out.
And then he wakes up in a completely different planet, which is a planet we had been on the past couple of, I think it was 2 episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
No, it might have been the last episode, which is the cloning
Mount
facility.
Tantus.
Where we get to see good old Hemlock again, which it looks like they're going to start experimenting on him. Who knows? Maybe they'll see.
See, Jess says he isn't going to need that helmet anymore. Yes, definitely not. Jess was thinking, what if they like do more work on him and turn him into like the first Death Trooper?
What I'm hoping is, for some reason, they have to go there to rescue. Because eventually, there's 2 things I think of. They're going to do a rescue mission for future clones that are already at the facility, or and they have to go rescue the clones that he ends up being there, and they say, well, they just actually he happens to be there, and they say, well, I guess we'll do it, and it's a whole drama thing. Or Omega is going to be captured, and they're going to have to rescue Omega,
and then Crosshair is going to help.
And Omega, they escape and they meet up again.
I would see that one, or I think that would be a more fun story if Omega and Crosshair actually end up working together. Crosshair earns more trust and respect for Omega, and then Hunter and Wrecker and Tech show up, and he's like, Crosshair, what are you doing here? And she's just like, oh, don't worry about him, he's coming with us.
That would be a good ending to the season, because we have 4 episodes left, and I think that might be how it might happen, because the last 2 episodes and the second to last episode's called The Summit.
Yeah,
so it might end up being the mountain. It might end up being the facility.
So do you think Delta Squad is going to be sent out to get Omega? Because a lot of people are because we're seeing Scorch a lot in this episode. We're seeing a lot.
I don't think of Omega specifically, but Scorch probably will be involved.
Yeah, we saw Scorch a lot in this one. He's like
I mean,
all over that place. He's pretty much the highest commando, probably.
If there was a clone, well, he is. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Delta Squad's like, yeah, Delta Squad's almost like OG commandos, aren't they? Like one of the first batch.
Well, the Delta Squad is essentially the original Bad Batch.
Yeah, exactly.
So if there's anyone that would give the Bad Batch a run for their money, it's not going to be a Stormtrooper. Yeah. It's going to be the Commandos.
Which we saw that in when they first went to Mount Tantus to save Gregor. Scorch kind of messes him up a little bit. He wasn't messing around. He doesn't play around. He's a demolitions fighting expert. Perfect timing for me to have gotten the Scorch figure.
Yeah, he would definitely give Hunter a run for his money easily. So yeah, I think because looking at the name of the episodes, we got Pabu, which is probably going to be another like filler type episode.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one after that's Tipping Point. This is probably going to be where Omega is probably going to be captured or something big. Tipping Point, of course. And then the Summit, which I'm assuming they're going to raid the facility. I mean, they've been teasing it. It's going to end there.
Well, and if nothing else,
Plan 99. So.
Yeah, and I feel like with the Summit, Plan 99, and of course them just being on Mount Tantus, there's so many things we could learn there. This could be the beginning of Palpatine's cloning. This could be the origins of Snoke kind of stuff. We could have, I mean, they could give us like Sabayoth is like this dead Jedi that they're siphoning Force from, which would kind of then show you like, oh, Sabayoth is at least canon because he was originally the keeper of Mount Tantus when he made Luke instead of just Luke.
I mean,
that's a whole Dark Empire weird story.
I think they're gonna originally capture Omega because they need to get the clone lady to talk. But
yeah,
Omega honestly is probably a big key to Palpatine's cloning. So I'm sure that once they find that out, they're gonna always chase after Omega at that point, which will lead to future Bad Batch if they are going to continue more than whatever seasons.
Let's see, Jess says theory that they are gonna make him a Death Trooper. So I know I kind of mentioned it before, but yeah, if they do more work on him and try to increase his inhibitor chip even more, I could see it making him a little nuts. That might even explain why the Death Troopers have such a weird way of speaking. They don't actually what comes out of their helmets is a very gargled, weird mess that only like select few people can translate. So they're like the elite of the Stormtrooper corps, but it could happen. But I know really with the Empire, I don't think the Empire wants to use clones in anything anymore.
I thought that it is weird because the only time we see them is mostly with high-end intel and kind of the scientists.
Or Vader.
Or Vader. But I don't know. They're Shadow Mystery. Honestly, it would be cool, but I kind of would like to see them stay kind of a secret.
Yeah.
Part of the mini mysteries. We don't need every question in Star Wars to be answered.
That in my heart really just wants Crosshair to make it. I would love it for even if he dies at the end and he dies saving Omega and the rest of the batch. I want him to have that. I don't want him to die being a villain.
Yeah, he's starting to redeem himself, but he hasn't turned good. He just kind of said no Empire.
Right. Yeah, he was just like, I'm done with you guys. You guys are so mean. I'm mean, but y'all are mean.
I would like to see kind of a sort of redemption-esque arc. Either he's dying or, like I said, him returning. I mean,
if he does not die, I would be very surprised that we don't get a season 3.
Yeah.
But
if he dies and he comes back and they give him the Echo treatment.
Well, speaking of the Echo treatment, I guess we could go over to R5.
Yeah.
Because of course we did get what is easily to this date probably the loudest I've ever screamed while watching any Star Wars content ever.
I mean, when you saw the title say Mines of Mandalore, I kind of had a feeling you were excited before it even started.
I was like, yes, second episode, here we go.
I like to dub this as the second title for this, either droids / Din Falls. Kind of, yeah.
Din Falls.
He falls multiple times.
Din Falls. Spelunking and falling.
Guess what instead of Mandalore, we go back to Tatooine.
Hey, because he's got to find an IG-11 part. And who else is he going to go to besides Peli? Because he doesn't know any other scrappers, I guess.
Well, I mean, not the other million of planets in the galaxy.
Right, or like the planets that,
Tatooine.
there are planets that literally made the IG series.
But yeah, we go. The first thing we see is the Bonta Eve, and it's a land speeder race. So I guess they're not doing the pod racers anymore.
Yeah, right.
Money's been hurting, so they can only do the little land speeders.
Or who knows? Maybe it was a land speeder race during Boonta Eve weekend. Like maybe there's like multiple races, because even in the background there's like a moment where you just see a dude in a speeder just doing donuts.
Yeah, I wanna take that clip of them like sliding around the curve and playing the Tokyo Drift song.
Yeah. It's a really fun scene too, because it opens up with Pele talking to this Rhodian about his broken speeder. Oh yeah, we'll fix it. Oh yeah, it's hard. Like she might as well be part Jawa. Honestly, she's done way more than just bed them. Because man, that was awesome. Just laying into him like, hey, you're not gonna talk to me like that. We're gonna get this. You're making me work on Boonta Eve.
We get to see. So we saw a bunch of her in the couple episodes of Book of Boba Fett with her in it. We can see a returning of a lot of droids. She has access to many droids. Not only that, a droid that we did get to see in Book of Boba Fett returning, which is her own BD droid, which is the only live action BD droid we've gotten to see.
Yeah.
But those that have only seen only seen Mandalorian, there's a BD droid. Like I said, first seen in Book of Boba Fett. But yeah, it's just cool to see all the different droids in the background. And if you're foreground.
Yeah, and if you're wondering, the BD comes from the Fallen Order game. It was Cal Kestis's BD1 is the droid that Cal Kestis likes to use. And it's a really cool droid because it's very unique. I think it was a very unique design.
It's the the recurring sidekick droid, but it's done in a different take. This time it's it's not a trash cone or a beach ball. It's a
like a little mantis puppy.
But we on the still in the show we get R5D4.
Yes, who's going to be very important.
He can't get IG-11 back, so he takes R5D4. This is the first time we've actually got to meet R5D4. He's shown up many times.
Yeah, but it's an amazing interaction because he's landing in after Pele's trying to scam this guy. She's literally having the Jawa steal parts off of land speeders just to have them come there and fix them.
Yeah. Well, she tells him to bring it back real fast before he comes back.
Is he gone? Okay, the little nose pit droid is just like watching, but he lands. He's like asking for parts, and she even asks the Jawas, and the Jawas are like, "We have no idea where to get you that part. It's
too old.
Yeah,
too old school droid."
Which I guess they are really old, but that's kind of strange because even in the Imperial, Empire Strikes Back, IG-88 is one of the best bounty hunters.
Yeah,
so it's strange that they stopped making the IG series, but I'm sure that's just because what is
probably
that? In the other Mando, when Ahsoka is fighting, those are like HK 97s or some crazy thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's like old appliances. There's some old appliances that are very, very good. It's just too expensive to keep making.
Right, because the parts are hard to place. Yeah, exactly. Like the heater I was working on today, the thermostat was literally from the 70s.
But yeah, one thing that we've seen this droid in season 1. We've seen it in the background in Book of Boba Fett, I believe, but we never got the confirmation that it was R5D4.
Yes.
And so we finally did when she calls it R5D4. Those that you don't know who R5D4 is, he's the droid from New Hope where Uncle Owen buys R5, but R5 motivator blows up and they get R2 instead.
Yep, that's why you'll notice on the back of R5 there is those little grease lines that go down his head, because that's his motivator that blew in A New Hope.
The behind the scenes when from season 1, they actually were talking about, they were painting that in case you could see it. That was added on. But yeah, the old comic, there's an old comic we talked about before where that no longer canon. They made him a Jedi, but now it is canon. I don't know if you know that called Point of View series. That he does based on the original comic, he does sacrifice himself for R2. He just isn't a Jedi.
Right. And which, by the way, highly recommend the From a Certain Point of View books. They are amazing, and in September they are dropping the one for Return of the Jedi. So they're pretty much in between. Like in the Empire Strikes Back, you get in A New Hope, you get the story of R5. In the Empire Strikes Back, you get the story of the cook who tried to poison the food in Bespin City to kill Darth Vader. It's just really awesome little fun little side stories, but they're all canon, and that's a really fun part of it that adds a lot of lore to the world. But so this R5 has apparently apprehensive abilities, because Peli's like, oh, this little guy, you just trying to spelunk? Oh, he can help, and he literally backs up and he's like, no.
I think she was making it up. But we've seen him also. He's in Attack of the Clones, by the way. So
really?
He's also in that. Yeah, he's in the background in Attack of the Clones.
Oh, cool.
What I read on Wikipedia, he's been in Attack of the Clones and Mandalorian and New Hope is mainly when we see him.
Okay.
But yeah, he's a coward, and she kind of embellishes. She says like he's a war hero during the rebel. That he helped the rebels, but there's no proof. I'm pretty sure she's lying.
Right. I mean, it's like, is she? Because he helped the rebels. R2D2 and C3PO went to Luke.
Well, I mean, the fact that he's really a huge coward.
Huge.
I don't see it, yeah.
But like, she's constantly just trying to blow smoke up Din's ass to make him buy the droid, pretty much. And the whole time R5 is just like, I don't want to go. I don't want to. I like it here.
It's fun that we get to see his personality, though, because we never really get to ever meet. He's always been a background character.
It makes me wonder, it makes more sense too on why he purposely blew his motivator, because he was just like, maybe it's not like he's like the lazy hero. He's like, I'll help, but I don't want to do much.
Well, my assumption, because I've read part of it and it's been a while, I kind of read a little bit of it to look up to see if I notice anything from the show from the series that we watched. And basically R2 was trying to tell him, hey, I need to go because the galaxy's in peril, and he kind of ignores him, and then he tells him, say, hey, you're my only hope, I need help, and it kind of repeats Leia, and then he finally like gives up and fakes his motivator being blown up, and then so yeah, I think it's more of he's like, oh, I can just like play dead and be a hero. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds easy. And then of course, Pele, being the great saleswoman that she is, does pretty much push the droid off on Din, puts it in the N1 after getting it all set up to where he can be in the actual droid pit, and then in natural Pele fashion, he's like, well, hold on, Mando's trying to like yell at her, and she literally closes his cockpit and is like, I can't hear you. What?
Well, before that, before they load him up, she's like talking to me. Oh yeah, where's the little man?
Oh yeah.
Grogu leaps out. He gets to show his new force jump that he's been practicing. He learns it in Book of Boba Fett from Luke, if you haven't seen that. But he is a lot better at it now.
Oh yeah, he's jumping all over the place.
All over the place, and she's like, oh my, she's commenting on it. But yeah,
he apparently he starts babbling, and like you can't actually hear it. He almost does say Peli, or he says like Pe, and she's like freaking out. Like, oh my god, he said my name. Me and Jess are very certain. I think Grogu's gonna start talking pretty soon.
But with Pele and droids behind, and then we get to the part that you probably were most excited for. We get to flying. He shows some navigation. We get a big lore drop if you're not paying attention.
Yes.
We find out Din grew up in Concordia.
Yep, which is one of the moons of Mandalore, which is where the Death Watch had their main base.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Since the group he belongs to is
the Children of the Watch,
a kind of an evolved splinter group of the splinter group.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, they drive by there and he shows Grogu like, hey, this Mandalorians have to know how to navigate space.
Yep. We're
gonna make that a new thing now. So that's a Mandalorian thing now, which
yep.
never really was a specific Mandalorian thing, but that's fine. It's cool that we get to learn. We get to see like Star Wars navigation and space travel, like not just hey push a button and flick levers. We get to actually get information.
And not only that, we got to see like a really good schematic for how close the planets in the Mandalorian system are. We got to see Mandalore, Concordia, and then over here he even says that was the planet we visited Bo on. That was
I don't think we've ever
Kavala, whatever it was called.
Gotten to see like how close they were to each other before this either. So
there's a lot of inhabited planets apparently in Mandalorian space. Thankfully, Mandalore was the only one that got destroyed. So they have other planets they can reside on.
in something that's as simple as travel, we get to see detailed cockpit
Yep.
that we don't really get to see like close up the cockpit. We get to be taught some flying lessons. We get to drop some big Mandalore, even if it doesn't seem like it. Not only Mandalorian lore, but also Din lore.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much in that sequence that would seem insignificant, it was big drops.
Yeah. We get a good look at Mandalore as it is right now from atmosphere, which is just covered in storms and smoke and clouds. They begin to
It
make
wasn't
their
like
way.
that before, in case
Yeah,
you didn't know.
right. In case you didn't know, in Clone Wars, it's a desolate, pretty much desert because it's been nuked to hell. Before that, it was a very lush world.
Yeah, in Clone Wars. It's a desert with dome cities.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, originally Mandalore. I don't know how much of it originally is, but it's supposed to be heavily lush. Almost think of originally it was kind of looked at as kind of like a Jurassic kind of like lush jungles where it's highly oxygenated, where everything's huge and massive.
Yes, and lots of mountains and trees and just everything there was there to kill you and be big. And that's what made the Mandalorians kind of fall in love with it to a degree that we get from old lore. But they are going through atmosphere. The R5's kind of complaining the whole time, which, I mean, for anyone, that would be hard to navigate through.
At least we can understand them. So.
Yes. They finally kind of swoop down, and we get the full scene of glassed Mandalore. All that silica, all that stone, and all those things turned into glass from superheated laser blast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the, and it's from those crazy lightning things they also used thanks to,
Sabine,
Sabine, yeah. Because that's a big part of it superheated from those lightning things they used, combined with the bombing. The bombing tore up the surface, but the lightning kind of melted it into the glass part.
And of course, they are cautious because, as Bo told them, the planet's cursed, unbreathable. No one can live there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. One thing I was reading about this. Now that you say this, Bo-Katan, says it's cursed. I mean, she says it's not as bad as she hears. It's not as bad as she thinks it is, and all this stuff. But the thing is, we found out Concordia is so much closer than we realize. How come she just never sent a droid over or something? She wasn't that far.
Right. No, even where her castle is in Kavin-La or Kavlin or whatever. I can never remember that.
Yeah, she's right. She's not that far from it.
You have a droid you have a protocol droid, Bo. Just send him.
She's never considered sending something over there. She just automatically assumed.
Yes, and even in an interview, Katie Sackhoff kind of talks about the fact that with Bo right now, since she lost everything again, her ego is so big and gnarly and hate-filled, she can't even see that she's causing all of her own problems and won't fix them. So that's a fun thing that Katie Sackhoff kind of talks about, but it's true. Bo-Katan could have easily have gone to Mandalore, had figured so much of this out, and she just didn't. It was right there, and she just chose not to.
That's why I hope they don't make her as the kind of new Mandalore, because she had all this chance. I mean, she's had chances in the past. In case you haven't watched Clone Wars, she has a terrible track record with being Mandalore. So. She's had two times where she could have done it.
Yep.
And Clone Wars Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yes.
And so technically the second time wasn't completely her fault. It just was bad timing because it was the Empire. But yeah, she kind of didn't do so hot.
And that's the big one where it kind of causes a lot of discourse, though, because it's like, was she beaten in actual single combat honorably, or did the Empire just take it from her? Which they probably just took it.
Well, that's what also because the idea was that you have to win it in combat, otherwise you're cursed. Well, she was given it, so they believe that because she was given it the curse, and that's what brought the Empire, and
that's what the armor. I think it's like season 2. The armor speaks about Bo is a cursed fan, or the Kryze clan are cursed, pretty much.
Yeah,
her Satine dies trying to be a pacifist, and Bo can't be Mandalore.
So yeah, we get a lot. We get the surface. We find out the air is actually not as bad as we think.
Yeah, because of course, though, R5 goes off and poof, disappears, which I knew was going to happen the second he just got sent out on his own. Din then decides to seal his helmet, which I think that's really cool that they can seal and unseal it so that they don't have to have oxygen regeneration and stuff. Seals his helmet. He goes out to find R5 picks him up. They come back. It's fine. It's 95% totally breathable. Like, it's in the green. It's not even like a low oxygen rate. It's still very oxygenated on that planet right now. And you can kind of see why, because then as him and Grogu get out to explore, once you go underneath the surface, there's life everywhere.
Yeah, it's one thing that's interesting, and we get in the surface, especially the life, because it's gonna be another big deal. That big city, that's Sundari. It's so weird because Sundari was a surface city with a large dome.
Yeah.
And now it's underground.
Well, it's like not to get too high, but when someone else goes over, when there's another Mandalorian, like, or Mandalore high-end, like, flying shot, we do see the city from the top. I guess what we didn't know is that the city goes really deep. So it's a dome on top, and then it just goes down.
It seemed confusing. I know it'd be part of it, because it's supposed to be a mining city, kind of.
And there are like a few trillion people living there?
With that shot, it almost reminded me that, like, they're turning Mandalorians into dwarves. So, like...
I mean, honestly, they have one of the most precious metals, some of the best smiths, the best armor, some of the best weapons. Like, it pretty much is space dwarves.
So we get some interactions with the new creature, which we won't find out what they are till Bo shows up later.
Yeah.
We found out that these are... Almites.
Sadly, not Tong. I really wanted them to be the Tong, but they're Almite. They're Alamites.
And I believe we're indicated that there were original species before the Mandalorians showed up. That they were already on the surface and they were around. They just were.
Bo says they used to live in the wastes.
Yeah. So I'm guessing they were like the original inhabitants. They were just not intelligent enough to get that far.
Yeah, and then of course the Mandalorians were going to let him get up.
I did see some people showing some similar like scenes to when they were walking through the hallways and stuff to Clone Wars, and there was similar locations from that would mirror.
Yes, when I first saw Sindar, I was like, wow, they did really good making it feel like the Clone Wars, but in live action. Like when you see all the sky bridges, the buildings, like it looks really good, even though it's destroyed.
Well, there's even a part where they're walking. I think it's Bo and Grogu walking down one of the hallways, and she's explaining, and it's like the same exact hallway that Obi-Wan and
Satine.
Satine, yeah, thank you, are walking down. It's like mirrored exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess they recreated the exact same.
Yeah, and which was awesome. Good point of detail. So Din and Grogu go deep down. We find like some little green-eyed dragon lizard-looking dudes, and they continue into what he believes is the mine, just trying to go as far deep as he can. And that's when we finally get to see the old Mandalorian helmet, which he begins to dig out of the earth, and then things go crazy.
It's a trap.
He's captured by some very strange droid that has an eyeball.
First we see it's a crab robot thing.
Yeah.
That almost looks like something from like early Clone Wars.
Because it like cages him and then sticks something in his neck.
Yeah, and then they stick him in a cage, and the thing comes out, and the thing is one of the coolest designs I've seen in a while.
At first I was like, oh my god, is that Maul? Did Maul somehow survive in the pits of Mandalore again?
Like a Bionicle, or almost, I got a little vibe of Mass Effect Geth. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, the Geth. Or
Dim, but with like this, it had this weird organic floating eye. It was pretty awesome. It kind of, and also, it's General Grievous vibe. So it's a cyborg. It's a weird alien, like apocalyptic cyborg thing.
With an electro staff, and he's literally just pumping blood out of Din for some reason.
Yeah, he's draining his blood, which is not what I would think that he would want, but apparently he wants his blood.
Grogu comes in to try and save him, sadly makes noise. That's when Din's like, go get Bo, because she's so close too. He's able to leave. Grogu gets in his
somehow, I don't understand how he's able to make it out on his own and fly all the way to Bo.
Before he gets sucked all of his blood dry, pretty much.
Is there like a button with like Bo's helmet on it, and like he pushes it and automatically takes you to Bo?
Well, I think he just tells R5. He just gets in there, he's like, R5, go! But the dragon tries to chase him out. That's when we get the scene where he's in his pram, just like booking it, and another one of the Alamites come out, and he's just like, no, go away, and just throws it out of the cavern. He doesn't have time to deal with any of this. He doesn't even, the pram stops and he just flips into the cockpit.
We get the scene from the trailer where super good use of the Force.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he jumps in there and he flies off and he flies off to back to Mos Eisley to drink some bantha milk.
Right, and get a few more frogs.
He got distracted. No, he makes it to Bo-Katan.
Which is hilarious because she's coming out like, I'm about to punch Din in the face. I told you to go away. She's like she's turning into a hermit.
Yeah, she's super mad, but
yeah, the second she sees it's just Grogu, she's like, "Where's Din? What's wrong?"
And she goes back, and we get a bunch of lore.
I can't remember. Do you know what that starfighter is called? The one she uses? Yeah, that's the Mandalorian starfighter.
It's the Gauntlet.
The Gauntlet, yes, Gauntlet.
Her ship is called the Gauntlet. That's not the model. The name of it, but it's like in the Clone Wars, it was like the kind of Mandalorian ship they had. At least the Death Watch ship.
Yeah, a little bit bigger. It is a Comric class fighter transport. Of course, that is a Mandalorian word, Comric.
Yeah, she calls her ship the Gauntlet.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah. Yeah, they were big ships in part of the Clone Wars.
And awesome I love the design. Yeah, they lift up and then the wings just go forward, like almost like one of our self-propelling jets that can levitate, like do that, Hydra jets and stuff.
She goes and tries to save. Like I said, we get some explanation of some of the Mandalorian.
She tells us what the Alamarts are after she kicks a lot of ass. Like, I love that. She even looks back at Grogu after beating up all these dudes way better than he did and is like, "What? You thought your dad was the only Mandalorian?"
Yeah, another trailer drop. She goes through and finds him getting, sucked dry, and they have a cool fighting sequence. She uses a bunch of her tools, uses her little shield thing.
Yep, and the Darksaber, and just shreds the dude.
She gets the Darksaber, and she shows that she doesn't have any issue using it.
Now, a quick side note, a lot of people are thinking, I had a few people go, well, the creature defeated Din, and then Bo defeated the creature, so she should have the Darksaber. I said, no. Din didn't fight the creature one-on-one combat. The creature grabbed him, and the Darksaber just fell out of his pocket.
Yeah, I mean, the Darksaber isn't magic. It's not like the Elder one. It's not like you have to disarm them. It's just that's kind of their tradition.
But she can use that thing. If it was like a Darksaber fight between the two of them, Bo would whip Din's ass.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole point of Din, right? He's like the come up story.
Yeah, and he has no idea how to use the Darksaber, but because she even says it, they're like, no, the Darksaber responds to what you want.
Well, she's also, I mean, the actress that's playing her doesn't look it, but she's got some age on her. She's been through a lot. She's done a lot. So it would make sense that she's a better fighter than Din, because she's done way more than he's ever done.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and she's been trained by.
I mean, she's fought against Maul. Yeah. She's fought against Pre Vizsla. She's fought against Jedi. I mean, she's done a lot of really good fighting.
She was basically royalty, so she's probably trained by the best Mandalorian fighters they had.
Right, because that's one of the parts she even talks about. Her sister was the politician. She was the warrior. That's what it was. The traitor. Yeah, and the traitor. She was young and impressionable, but we get it.
She was a terrorist for a little bit.
In her teens, she was kind of a terrorist. But they saved Din. He's like, nah, I'm still going. I'm not gonna not go. And she's like, fine, I'll freaking take you, I guess. We get the
this way. You might as well.
Yeah, we get the Pog soup. Apparently, every single Mandalorian child was raised on Pog soup, and Din has no idea. So it's hilarious how Bo's just like, you're such a weird Mandalorian.
I just like how casually dropping like, oh yeah, this is a tradition. You guys didn't know this the whole time, you fan base. I thought you guys like Mandalorians. You didn't know Pog soup.
Right. Wow, you guys are so crazy about the creed, but you don't even know what Pog soup is.
It's like, it almost feels like an insult to fans too. It's like, you guys think you're Mandalorian fans. Yeah, you don't know about
you know what Pog soup. They do finally then get to the actual entrance, which was they were way off. Bo's like, nah, bro, it's the giant door.
Yeah, and there's like a big old plaque which she reads for us.
This is when it begins. This is when the lore begins.
That it's originally a mythosaur lair that where it stated that Mandalore the Great, in case you don't know, he's the first Mandalore that has the title. where he once tamed a mythosaur, and basically, yeah.
And yeah, those of you
Yeah,
who might have not known his exploits, Mandalore the Great, you can see that comic right there. That's the comic that he is starring in, because Mandalore the Great was a part of Ulic Qel-Droma and Exar Kun's Sith army before Revan and all of that. Mandalore the Great died on the planet Duxon, the namesake for this channel, and why I chose that actually. And it wasn't until Mandalore, or the soon-to-be Mandalore the Ultimate, would find his mask, kill all the creatures that had killed Mandalore the Great, and don the mask to become the Ultimate, and he would then fight against Revan and all of that. But yeah, Mandalore the Great was one of the first Mandalores to lead his people against the Republic and really start a huge war, which would begin the like almost hatred that the Republic would have for the Mandalorians.
And they also changed part of his backstory. So the original backstory, which they mentioned this before, which is Mandalore the Great, or Mandalorians used to ride the Mythosaur. Mandalore the Great actually led to kind of the first counterattack against the Mythosaur. Because originally they dominated the surface of Mandalore. And so he actually originally something that they fought against, and he was one of the first ones to help kill. Then it became a tradition to test your metal by killing them. But now it's kind of changed to taming them.
Yeah.
Instead of killing.
Well, and then because
originally that's how they were.
That's when we're getting into the weird lore too, because there is supposed to be Mandalore the First, but Mandalore the Great is pretty much the most well known already. So I'm fine with any of that. But yeah, Mandalore the Great, we're in a mythosaur lair, taming mythosaurs, which makes sense kind of where like they were talking about with, you know, you must, if one were to ride the mythosaur kind of thing, like the legends and stuff, they talk about how they'll be the most powerful Mandalore and bring everyone back together.
It's kind of like the return of the next true Mandalore. So it's like you know, if he's Jesus, if he rides a mythosaur.
Right, exactly. He's the savior if he can ride a mythosaur. So another beautiful scene though, in which Din removes some of his clothing, like his cape and stuff, pretty much, and his jetpack, and begins renouncing the creed. Not renouncing, but renewing his vow in the creed, which apparently Bo had said before too. As a young child, she was brought there and said the creed and bathed in the waters. So that creed that we hear the Children of the Watch use is the same creed for all Mandalorians. They just take it to the extreme.
Yeah, well, she sounds like the way she was talking about it was like something she just took for granted, like it was just something she had to do.
But seeing Din do it, you can actually see her almost like get a little touched, like, oh my gosh, this is it's reconnecting her.
When he started walking the water, I immediately called what was going to happen. I mean, we already seen it with the child.
Yeah.
Some similar, but my first thing is like, this is a huge trope. He's going to walk in there. It's going to seem like a shallow pool, but it's not. And yeah, I called it. It gets a whole emotional deal. He starts chanting as she gets all teary-eyed. And then
just taken into the darkness. She dives in after him. Because, of course, Mandalorian jetpacks work underwater. Because fucking why not?
Yeah. But yeah, we get Hero Bo twice.
Yep.
This episode, at least. She jumps after them and
goes all the way down, finds him. Yep. She's starting to pick him up, and at first we're like, oh, well, that's weird. Nothing was there.
Ends.
Yeah, right there. That's the last thing. Can't believe they talked about Mandalore the Great, guys. That was the best thing ever. Okay, anyway, we get to see what at first is just like some scales, and then I saw the tusk and the tooth. And then when they keep panning, you can see how like recessed the skull is and how kind of like elongated it is. And I was like, that's a mythosaur.
Yeah, clearly, if it wasn't clear by the straight design, it literally is the skull with some scales on it. They didn't give any meat to that. It's so funny because I always like people like kind of do concept ideas what the mythosaur looks like.
Because like if you look at a hippopotamus skull and what a hippo looks like, it is not the same.
But yeah, they clearly like there's no meat of it.
They were just like, we want you to know what this is. And boy howdy, there is a giant, I mean a huge mythosaur living underwater. Now that's a new one too. We had no idea they could survive underwater. This guy was like asleep down there.
Well, from past unconfirmed, I guess technically non-canon lore, the mythosaur can be bigger than the size of a city. So this is technically small for a mythosaur, but yes, we had no idea that there's any they could live underwater now.
But yeah,
I mean,
his eye opens and he just kind of like swims off, which
I guess it would make kind of
Bo
sense.
gasps. So I mean, she's like, "Oh my god, that's a mythosaur." If nothing else, she's got to be like, "Din, you are the luckiest, dumbest person I've ever met in my life. How do you met Luke Skywalker? You met Ahsoka Tano. You saw the first mythosaur in how long? You have stumbled your way through the most important characters of Star Wars, and you have no idea you're in Star Wars."
Yeah, and he doesn't even want to be there. He just wants to have a country drive with his son. That's
You're right, but he has to interact with every single biggest player in the entire universe.
I mean, he got to work with an IG droid. He didn't get the classic IG-88, but it wasn't 80. It was 11, but close enough.
He's got magistrate friends now. He's got high magistrate friends now.
Well, yeah, I also met Boba. I don't forget, met the iconic Mandalorian Boba. He met
He's got Bo-Katan in his pocket. I don't care what anyone else says. Bo-Katan is totally like, no, okay, I think me and Din got to work together on this.
He's got, I mean, he got to go to the most iconic Star Wars locations. He's got, I mean, what hasn't he gotten to do?
So, I don't think he was awake. I imagine next episode, Bo's just going to be like hyperventilating and telling him what the fuck just happened.
So my joke was going to be when she sees the mythosaur, you see all these bubbles. So people say, "Oh, she's gasping," but she's actually pooping herself. She's shitting herself.
She's just straight shitting herself, which I would be too.
I dislike about this is, and it's not the mythosaur, and it's not him riding the mythosaur, and it's not previous. It's just it's so close that we just had Boba Fett. Show that he's the ruler of Mos Eisley by riding the Rancor. It's like the same thing repeated.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I wish they didn't have it. So, I don't know. I wish it was done differently. Maybe they didn't. As badass as they're riding the Rancor, maybe they shouldn't have done that necessarily.
But Rancors are written a lot. I mean, there's a lot of lore that Rancors are written all over Dathomir when the Night Sisters existed. And
I know. It just feels like you're telling the same story, but with more flair. And better writing.
I mean, isn't that when you look at the Book of Boba Fett versus Mandalorian? That's what it is. It's just the Book of Boba Fett with better writing.
I don't know. It's just like my first thought was like, man, I just feel like I just watched this season.
Well, and who knows? He might not even write it. He might just tame it and it like fights alongside him, or he's just like it doesn't kill him. Pretty much, it's like I'll allow you to be near me. As
much as I like Bo, they can't be hyping Din this entire time up for him to pass it on to her.
Right. I would not see him being like, I don't think so either. I could see them working together. I actually like the idea of them becoming a couple. I don't give a hell what anyone else wants to say.
She's going to need her if he's going to reunite the Mandalorians. He has to have her on his side.
Yes. If you want to reunite all of them, the Children of the Watch and the other Mandalorians.
But she's not going to follow him. She's probably going to have this duel with him because she's had so many chances and never a real dual chance to fight for the saber. So I'm assuming so she doesn't have any unanswered questions. She's gonna have to fight him.
Yeah,
and that's probably gonna be like the a huge test for him, and to get her and her followers on his side. Him bathing in the waters is gonna get the Watch on his side. That's the start of reuniting the Mandalorians. And then, in fact, if he has a mythosaur, don't know. I mean, honestly, he's probably gonna have to use Grogu to tame the thing with the Force.
But if he shows up with the Darksaber in his hand and a mythosaur riding it, no Mandalorian wouldn't immediately just fall down like, okay, yep, you're Mandalore.
Well, what you don't see, because the point of view is actually he's just passenger riding it. It's Grogu that's actually riding.
And Grogu's the real Mandalore.
I mean, that's what I think that they're trying to eventually go towards.
Like the new Tar Vizsla.
Going to be eventually the leader of, he's being raised. Din's kind of setting up the throne, but Grogu's being raised to be the actual Mandalore.
So I just thought of this. Do you think Grogu could be the one who makes the alien species brought into the Mandalorians? Because we don't see any.
Yeah. Or and he's going to be the leader of the bad guys for the future movies. He's going to be the leader of the second Mandalorian War.
Which would be, I'm down for that. That'd be awesome. Like if Rey and Grogu have to fight because Grogu leads the Mandalorians and Rey's trying to protect the New Republic. That'd be a fun fight. I'd be down for that.
The Mandalorian Wars 2.
Yep, exactly. Which would then give us a really good way to have a whole bunch of Darth Revan and those kind of flashbacks or mentions, because we're literally seeing the new Jedi Order, the Skywalkers, whatever they're going to be called or named, versus the Mandalorians, and they're going to be like coming for blood.
I mean, it's the leader carries a lightsaber. I mean, it's like they're begging Grogu to be the leader.
Yeah.
He disavowed the Jedi saber. He chose Mandalorian armor to be. He chose to be a Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need the little green lightsaber. He wants that lightsaber.
Yeah, he wants to be able to use two hands. Damn it, that's like a great sword to him.
I mean, knowing him, he's probably going to be like using the Force and flinging it around.
I mean, honestly, that could be it. He could be like, he could grab it and defend Din and Bo against the Mythosaur, because that's been another trope of Grogu's. At the very last face of death, Grogu's the one to stop the fire, to stop the Mudhorn.
Yeah, he's already shown connection to life. That's why I was saying that I think he's going to be the key to taming the Mythosaur.
Right, and like the Force healing thing, that's an extremely rare, extremely powerful Force technique that Rey only learned by finding the most ancient and forbidden Jedi texts that were like hidden away. I don't know how Grogu just immediately did it, but he did. So he's like, that means he's extremely well connected to the Force. If he could just, let me just heal you.
It's so funny that we gave, a lot of people gave her so much flack for like the stuff she could do.
Yeah.
But Grogu
is literally like 5.
Because he's an adorable baby.
Right.
He's like, he's already showed better Force strength than she has, and he's got the mind of a toddler.
Right. It's the most Mary Sue I've ever seen in my life. He's not even fully developed and he's more powerful.
But can you say anything to that face? Come on.
I mean, oh, dude, like when the Scout Trooper punched that bag, we all wanted to kill that Scout Trooper. He's too precious.
But I mean, they're setting him up for... Come on. The last character we had that had such strength with the Force that didn't have proper training turned out to be Darth Vader.
Yeah. But how awesome is that going to be to watch one of Yoda's species go dark?
He's so attuned to the Force, so powerful in the Force, and he has nobody pointing him towards the light side. Right. His mentor, he force choked Cara Dune just because she was beating Din in arm wrestling. His only mentor has been Luke for a couple years, and the rest is Din. And Mandalorians aren't evil. Yeah. But they're not the good guys. Right. So a Mandalorian will shoot you immediately, no questions asked. So yeah, I have a feeling that Grogu is, unless they try to like play this off as some fairy tale thing, that he's heading towards the dark side, because he's got no, it's the whole point of having the Jedi Orders to kind of, showing people, people that are tuned to the Force the right way how to use the Force, and he doesn't have that. Yeah, and that could be another cool thing though, is since Rey's not going to be a Jedi anymore, the Jedi are gone. Rey is going to start her own new thing with more balance, less restriction, less of this and that. Kind of how we all wanted Luke to do it, how he was, how he did it in the Legends material. But Grogu is also probably not going to, he's not going to be like full evil. He's not going to be like a Sith, but he is going to use the dark side. He won't be scared of it. He's going to be a Mandalorian warlord. Right. So we're literally going to have a more light side user who doesn't mind getting a little aggressive if she has to, and an aggressive dark side and light side user, and that's going to be a hell of a fight, because we already know Rey has lightning. Well, heck, if we get Ahsoka teaching him at all, she's going to teach him some dark side stuff too. She believes in both. Yeah, it's even more reinforcing that he's going to use some dark side. I mean, he's already used some, he said Force choke in previous episodes. So yeah, no, I definitely think that. I feel like Din will be kind of set up to be the collector of the Mandalorians, and then Grogu will be the warlord, the conqueror. Grogu the Conqueror. Yeah. Mandalore the Conqueror. Well, no, that already exists, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, that does already exist. Mandalore
Let's see. Oh, what was man? They didn't actually tell us what Tar Vizsla's Mandalorian name was, or his Mandalore name. He was just Tar Vizsla.
I think they
Did they? Yeah, you look that up if you don't mind, real quick. I'll just kind of think about the fact though that it will be an interesting name if nothing else to see.
pretty sure he had
Like a title, right?
It said Tar Vizsla, right?
Yeah, Tar Vizsla, creator of the Dark Saber. Because he was a Mandalore.
I'm pretty sure he had one, and I don't remember. It's gonna drive me nuts now.
Right. You know, Mandalore the wielder, Mandalore the user, Mandalore the sensitive. I don't know. Mandalore the small. But if nothing else, that could be a really good and a really nice way for them to finally bring aliens into the Mandalorian ranks. If they're so scattered and they're so beat up and they're so like, oh my gosh, I just thought of this. It almost is identical to the actual story. Because what happens is the Tong are the original race, and they get so killed through all the constant wars and fighting that they then bring in all the other aliens and humans. So
Yeah,
now we're almost seeing a parallel. The human Mandalorians are so defeated and beaten up and destroyed that now they might have to turn to involving the aliens into the Mandalorian creed so that they can bolster their numbers and get back to the way they were.
Looks like Jester and Mariel stopped it with the titles.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
The last title is Mandalore the Hammerborn, which is not a very. It's a very original name, but not as cool as the others.
Yeah, Mandalore the Indomitable, Mandalore the Unstoppable.
Yeah, the Mandalore the First, the Conqueror, Domitable Ultimate, the Mandalore, the Preserver, the Lesser, Vindicated, Avenger, Binder, Uniter, Destroyer.
Yeah,
Hammerborn.
Yeah, they kind of stopped that title. I would see. I hope it comes back. I love the Mandalore the titles, but yeah, I think it would be a really cool way for them to then kind of bring that Legends back. That it is these human species Mandalorian are so beaten up that to get their numbers back, to take back Mandalorian space, to really bring it back to the galaxy and be like, look, we're back with a vengeance. They're going to just open up the creed and start inviting a lot of other people.
Well, most of those names I don't think are still canon anymore.
Yeah, except for the only one we've ever heard now is Mandalore the Great.
And then only confirmation is Mandalore the Great, Tar Vizsla, and Pre Vizsla.
Okay.
And Bo-Katan, and technically, I mean,
it's like Jaster is canon, but they didn't call him a Mandalore.
Yeah, as the official titles of Mandalore, those are the only names that are listed.
Yeah.
Which is Great, Tar Vizsla, Pre Vizsla, and Bo-Katan. The rest weren't official Mandalores, apparently. So just the Great.
Yeah, it'll be very exciting though to see how this kind of go, and I feel like we're just going to continue to get more and more of this lore though. Like the lore drops are going to continue to really be heavy in these next few episodes, more than likely.
Yeah, and they are changing things, so they're adding stuff, they're rewriting stuff. Like I said,
nothing's been a slap in the face. At least, like I'll give them that. They haven't like pulled the rug out from you on anything.
I mean, one of the major changes, like I said, is the Mythosaur were no longer slaughtered. Were hunted for proof, like as a right, like a growing up ceremony. Now it's a taming.
Which I mean, hey, taming is way harder than killing.
Well, I have my questions with that. Then how did they become extinct if they were being tamed? That would be my question.
Because some of them never wanted to be tamed, so you had to put them down.
I don't know.
Yeah, right. It'll be fun.
Something she'll next episode, the first thing says, "Oh my god, I haven't seen those in forever because they died of malaria." So.
Or Grogu will force connect with it, and they'll have a whole like Mythosaur episode where it's just the Mythosaur like thinking about its past and its people. Who knows?
Grogu's gonna just snap and just crush his neck since it's killing.
Yeah, it's attacking Din, and he just like picks it up and just crushes it, and like, oh. Mythosaur lasted 3 episodes.
And then all the Grogus in like Walmart are getting destroyed because everybody's gonna start hating Grogu then.
No, but honestly, guys, this was a stellar 2 episodes. It was really, really good. But seeing that Mythosaur, I felt like a 2-year-old again. I was just screaming. I was just like, oh my gosh. gosh.
I wish I'd have to see if they've released the name of the next episode because next episode's gonna have to be something major unless they like cut to something else. They cut the book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, here's the Boba Fett 2 episodes.
Oh yeah, you guys wanted to see the mythosaur we hinted at episodes ago? But yeah, next episode should be pretty massive.
I kind of enjoy though that the Mandalorian isn't even dropping the name of the episode until like the episode comes out. Because they always just say like episode this, and then it's like, oh, and then later it updates to Mines of Mandalore.
We usually get the release of like all the episode names. We haven't at all. In this
I wonder if that's because like they're like, no, bro, these titles kind of give a lot away. Which it wouldn't really be Dave Filoni's style to give everything away in the title, but who knows? Maybe this way they just kind of had to do it.
They have released who's directed and written those episodes, which is very interesting.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I remember that they did release that list.
Yeah.
Does it say the episode's director by like number?
Name.
I was gonna say I was trying to figure out who the next director would be then.
It is. I can tell you, it is Lee Isaac Chung for the director, and the writers are Noah Clore and John Favreau.
All right, so John's gonna be helping writing, so I could definitely see this one being a heavy lore one as well.
Don't recognize the name Noah Clore, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. But no, with John being there, I highly expect it to be more lore.
He wrote for the Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian, so he's written episodes before.
Okay.
Don't know what episodes, but I'd have to do more research. Lee Isaac Chung is a director.
Mm-hmm.
He's got IMDb. He has not done Mandalorian before, apparently.
Okay.
He did the movie. I don't recognize any of these. He's doing apparently they're redoing the movie Twister, and he's doing that movie. So
interesting. That is an interesting movie to try to redo. I didn't think anyone in today's society even cared or remembered besides like us, Twister.
Yeah. They're remaking everything at this point, so I'm not surprised.
And that's very true. Yeah.
So it looks like the director's his first and only episode. So who knows what happens with that one?
True.
The writer seems like a returning writer.
And then,
I don't know what episodes.
And then Jon Favreau.
Yeah, he's also writer and kind of heads the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I doubt we're gonna get anything off. That's one thing that's good that they have somebody that's kind of
yes. It's like the kind
direction.
I feel like Marvel was the one who taught a lot of companies that, like, no, you need to have people who are there to carry the story, make it cohesive, really push narratives, and make sure things are done in a proper way with timing and build up to make you love the characters that they are going to strip away from you. So it's definitely going to lead to a lot of good things. I only have good views for what'll be coming out with the future of this series.
For sure.
Yeah.
The biggest problem I have is when this show's going to be over because it's definitely going to feel the emptiness and my watching schedule for a while.
And then I think the only thing next will be like maybe we have to pretty much wait for Celebrations for any more news on Skeleton Crew, Ahsoka, the Acolyte.
Is Skeleton Crew Ahsoka's next, isn't it?
I think Ahsoka is next, yes. Yeah, okay. So hopefully it'll come out soon enough. Maybe they'll be maybe they'll pull a cool Celebrations thing where they'll be like, hey, guess what, guys? The second The Mandalorian ends, Ahsoka will start.
I hope we get some better writing. I hope we get more of an Andor treatment and less of a. I mean, not like as in like the standard of writing, because I felt like Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan, the writing just wasn't on par with everything else. I hope that we don't get a return of that. I'm not saying the shows are bad, just the writing in general was kind of eh.
Yeah.
So I hope that the show gets some love.
Yeah.
I mean, we already know that we're getting Sabine. A lot of people are already predicting that with Ahsoka coming out now that they're already making this kind of the the Avengers treatment, where eventually it's going to they're setting Boba Fett up, they're setting Ahsoka up, and they're going to like have this all combined Avengers movie
Right.
of all the characters, or maybe an epic movie, like an extended long episode that they don't want to call a movie.
No, I could definitely see a lot of big things really coming out of what's happening with the Star Wars universe right now. Yeah. So it's going to definitely be fun. And we got so many other things happening, again, the books and comics, just so many things. So many things. I am so excited to see where the future of all of this is going to go. And really the movies too, because that's another thing we'll probably get at Celebration is going to be the movie announcements, if there are any, this next few years.
We have for sure a movie coming. Well, we have two movies, I believe, for sure. There's the main movie, and then there's a spin-off. And then there's 3 shows that I can recall right now, not counting the children's show, which is...
I think that one's going to probably... I wouldn't be surprised if that one honestly comes out before Ahsoka.
You get Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, and Acolyte. Is there another show?
Well, there's the little kids one, yeah.
I'm talking about like the main shows. Those 3?
Yeah, that's it. The rest of them aren't slated, I think, or even like really talked about till 2024.
And then 2 movies. Like I said, we get the main movie with Rey coming out, and then we have a movie that we have no idea what's going to be about. Probably going to be pretty goofy knowing the director. So
yeah, very true. But guys, yeah, it's gonna be crazy. Next week, I know it's probably gonna just be another amazing episode. Yeah. Mandalorian has really, really developed and really pushed a lot of envelopes in the lore department. Now, again, if it gets that nice Andor writing treatment and they really take their time and flesh things out well, it'll easily surpass Andor, because I mean, the Mandalorian is what brought almost everyone back to Star Wars.
Yeah, it's on par with some of the great shows that we get, the high-end TV shows that everybody kind of follows. Like, think of like The Last of Us.
Same actor.
Yeah,
Pedro is just making money.
We get if Star Wars didn't, if Disney didn't own Mandalorian, this would be like a show that'd be probably on like HBO or something.
Right.
So yeah, it's akin to those high-end long shows that we get with like like Game of Thrones style that kind of like started the trend of it. Didn't start the idea of just that kind of caused the trend of these shows, and in the end, this is awesome because we get something that's like a movie but more. Instead of 2 hours, we get like 10 hours or more.
Right. Yeah, there's so much more that can get fleshed out in a series, so it's going to be amazing. I look forward to, we'll do another reaction, me and the missus again, and then, of course, once Friday comes. This next Friday, I won't be on call anymore, so don't worry. It's thankfully only a once every 4 weeks kind of thing. We might start taking breaks on those Fridays, just because it could be, I could get called out literally right now, who knows. So we may end up doing that, but we will let you guys know, and I will definitely be more up to and on time with that first week with the new job, so it happens. But thank you all for understanding. Thank you all for joining us, and wow, what a few episodes. Can't wait for next week. As always, my dearest friends, make sure to like and comment, subscribe, and share in the comment section down below, though I want you to personally tell me what you think of Grogu becoming the leader of the Mandalorians. What would that do to them as a creed and a people? Have an amazing rest of your weekend and an amazing rest of your Friday. And as always, may the Force serve you well.